Our favorite national talking head is talking about, guess who? 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy. Now, Nick Wright has made a bit of a reputation for himself for being a Brock Purdy hater and all these different types of names you want to call him. And so, of course, he's been a point of interest in regards to just what is his take after every 49ers win. Because, again, he's been a guy that has been quick to discredit Brock Purdy and what he's done so far in his young career. And so, like I said, he's built a bit of a reputation. And I know already, I can see the comments. Why do I care what Nick Wright says? I don't care either. But it is just interesting to kind of keep track with these guys because when they flip, which will be inevitable, Nick Wright eventually is going to be singing the praises of Brock Purdy. And it's going to happen because we know how good Brock Purdy is and we know what he's capable of. So the San Francisco 49ers keep playing this way, it's eventually going to happen. So I personally take some enjoyment in kind of watching these types of people who are so adamant about their takes versus actually taking in what is being shown on the field and what these guys are actually doing and executing on the field, and just planting their flag on their take, and that's they're not moving off of it. So I do find enjoyment kind of watching these guys wiggle around and try to find different paths to discredit Brock. And of course, guess what? Nick Wright finds a path to discredit Brock Purdy, being the betting favorite for the MVP. Take a look right here at Nick Wright stating his case.
Guys, we all watched a lot of football yesterday.
4 touchdowns. Very good.
Hold on. Hey, everybody can see the numbers.
Well, I understand.
But luckily, we also get to watch the games. Was Brock Purdy the best player on his team yesterday?
No, Debo.
No, Debo was. And when I say it's more than just the numbers, it is important to know that Brock Purdy got perfect passer rating and about 100 yards of passing on these and 2 touchdowns on these 2 Debo plays. Mm-hmm. And again, he's doing his job, and we can show you the 2 Debo plays. He's doing his job, and I'm not knocking him. This is, again, we've jumped the shark where it's not about, you guys could have probably checkmated me if you guys just wanted to say, hey, Nick, ready to admit Purdy's a little better than you thought? I'd probably have to admit that. But now we skipped all the steps to should he be league MVP because of a performance. We watched great football players all day yesterday. And it is, to me, an indictment on where the award could be, a la Chris Winkie or Jason White winning the Heisman.
Yep.
If on a day where we saw Tyreek Hill, and we can show you some of those highlights,
yeah, I saw one.
Do what he did, and we're like, wow. He tilts the field in a way only a handful of players in NFL history have. Where we watch...
So is that your MVP right now? Like right now?
No, right now it's Dak. I said that right now it is Dak, but there are Tyreek's a guy that I would have ahead of Brock. There are a lot of guys I would have ahead of Brock because they are, on a week-to-week basis, clearly not only excellent, but the driving force. And Brock is not. He wasn't yesterday.
The goalposts are constantly moving with these guys, and I think there is a way that we can completely have a debate with Nick Wright indirectly, because the main point of what Nick is saying is he's basically saying, look at that game against the Eagles. Look at what Deebo Samuel did. He took a tunnel screen, 60 yards to the house. He took multiple plays that were, I think he took a slant to the house. So it wasn't like, let's say the Brandon Ayuk deep bomb, 66 yards down the left sideline from Brock Purdy against the Bucs, where Brock, absolutely puts it on the money on the outside shoulder against the sideline. And Ayuk does the rest, after about 45, 50 air yards on that particular throw. So this is my counterpoint to Nick Wright, saying that Deebo Samuel was the best player on the field, which he's not lying. I actually agree with that. I think Deebo was the best player on the field against the Eagles. He scored 3 touchdowns. Deebo was a menace that day against the Eagles. But the counterpoint is this, is we when talking about MVP, right, we know it's a quarterback award. And I do also have no problems with the case that he's stating for Tyreek Hill. I do think Tyreek Hill is playing phenomenal football. And if they were to give it to a non-quarterback, he might be that guy. But as we know, it typically shifts towards being a quarterback award. And so that's why you have guys like Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, whichever quarterback you want to name at the top of the list right now for betting favorites. And when you look at Brock Purdy and you try to use the fact that Deebo Samuel was the best player against the Eagles to somehow discredit what Brock, what Brock do. Just go back to the NFC Championship game. A game where Deebo Samuel was on the field, a game where Christian McCaffrey was on the field, a game where Kittle, Ayuk, all those guys were there except one guy, and that guy was Brock Purdy. And the point being is, if you go back and you actually watch the tape of that game, Kyle Shanahan was absolutely in his bag. You can make the argument that Kyle Shanahan was actually the player of the game because of how he dialed up all these looks. But a huge reason why those looks are successful is because you have a quarterback who knows how to execute them to perfection. Even if he's not directly making the play, he is indirectly setting up everything. That's the whole point of what a quarterback does. And although this particular game didn't have, it wasn't like the perfect passer rating game against the Bucks, right? However, this game you could see the operation in which Brock was executing. He executed the game plan flawlessly. And that's part of the point. And it's like, yes, Kyle Shanahan's system was absolutely phenomenal. Deebo Samuel went crazy. You have all these weapons, but you and I know what this offense looks like when you don't have a quarterback like Brock Purdy. It does not look like this. And that's the point, is that Brock Purdy's in the center of all the success for all these players. He is the catalyst for making sure that all these things happen, getting the ball to Deebo in time in order for him to make a play. Yeah, screen passes aren't impressive, but what is impressive about what Brock Purdy shows on tape consistently is his ability to get those screen passes out quickly and on time. That's something that, that didn't happen with Jimmy Garoppolo. That just didn't happen. Our wide receiver screen game was wildly unsuccessful for the most part because Jimmy would miss. He would either throw the ball behind, he would throw it low, he would throw it high. Think about George Kittle. George Kittle got hurt on a screen pass, on a lateral pass because he threw it too high, and his legs got taken out from him. Is that an MVP caliber type throw to throw a lateral pass for a screen? No, but the point is he executes it to perfection. So these guys like Deebo Samuel can find that lane and hit with perfect timing and all those different types of things. Like, yes, it doesn't look that great, but if you knew what we had before and you seeing the completely stark differences of what it looks like with Purdy, that is why you have to be able to understand football, man. You have to be able to understand context and nuance. And that's the problem with these guys, is they don't know that. They don't understand that, yeah, it was a tunnel screen, but Brock is a huge part in that. He has to get the ball there quickly and on time. And if it's not, that play doesn't work. The reason why Deebo is untouched is because he's in perfect synchronization with his offensive lineman. It doesn't happen unless the ball gets there on time. And Brock Purdy does that consistently. It's one of his best throws. I talk about it on my film breakdowns all the time. It's such an underrated aspect of his game with how quickly he turns and burns. And so that's the thing. It's like, yeah, Deebo Samuel is the best player on the field, but you cannot take away how well Brock Purdy is executing this offense and making sure that all these guys do have those opportunities to do it. Like, you can even talk about the play where Deebo Samuel scored on the end around. Like, it was a phenomenal play action sell. Like, oh, well, it was a play action. Every quarterback can run play action. Play action is a learned skill. And because Brock Purdy executes everything so flawlessly, that's why those plays work. And he can execute those things. And he can put his guys in a position to be successful. He had the really nice throw to Brandon Ayuk. So this is how it goes right now. Brock Purdy is playing at a high level. That's the point. It's not all about throws. And that's the nearsighted, short-sighted, lack of nuance conversation that Nick Wright is having. He doesn't understand what it takes to play quarterback in the NFL and understand that it's just not about flashy throws. It's not just about how many 50-yard bombs can you throw. And that's why. It's the short-sighted, it's like a fan take. And so I get it. He's national media. I don't know. But it's funny to kind of track, like I said at the beginning, and just watch it play out. And it gives us something to talk about, because for me, it gives me an opportunity to build the case for Brock Purdy being the MVP. And even in a game where, yes, he had 3 touchdowns, he had over 300 yards, and you look at how that happened, and you saw a lot of it be yards after catch and all those different types of things, you still have to understand the small nuances of his game and how important he is to this offensive success. And what Nick is doing is undercutting that. So that's why we talk about it. That's why we don't necessarily need to care about what Nick Wright says, but it is fun to kind of almost like indirectly debate the things that he has to say, because he has not very good football takes, at least when it comes to Brock Purdy. I don't listen to anything else he says other than the 49ers. But let me know what you guys think about everything I had to say. What did you think about what Nick Wright had to say? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.